So back in the 1950s, there were these two neuroscientists, and they managed to block the release of just one single chemical in the brains of laboratory rats.
Right, the dopamine receptors.
Yeah, exactly. And what happened next wasn't just, a mild behavioral shift. The rats didn't just get a little sluggish. They completely lost the will to live.
They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't mate. I mean, they wouldn't even drink water when they were literally dying of thirst.
It's wild.
No.
And today, we are going to explore how that exact same chemical mechanism is secretly dictating literally every seemingly lazy or disciplined choice you make, day in and day out.
It really is one of the most profound realizations you can have about human behavior, because we spend our whole lives thinking we're these fully conscious, rational agents driving the bus, right?
Right.
But in reality, so much of our daily action is just being steered by this deeply grooved, ancient neurological software.
Well, welcome back to The Learner. Today we are doing a massive deep dive into a concept that has probably caused more unnecessary guilt and shame than almost anything else.
Right.
We're talking about willpower.
Oh, the willpower trap.
Exactly. We're using the insights from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and our mission today is to totally dismantle the idea that changing your life requires you to be some kind of superhero of self-discipline.
Which is such a liberating mission, honestly, because if you look at the cultural baggage we carry around habits, it's incredibly heavy, and it's overwhelmingly negative.
Oh, totally. It's like a moral failing.
Yes, we have this deeply ingrained narrative that equates behavior with morality. So if you're overweight, or if you can't put your phone down, or you can't seem to finish a project, society's diagnosis is always just that you have a weak character.
Like you lack moral fortitude. It's the expectation of the cinematic training montage,
The Rocky montage.
Yeah. The dramatic music swells, the hero wakes up at 4 a.m. in the freezing cold, drinks a glass of raw eggs, and just pushes through pain using pure grit.
Right, and we're sold this idea that success is just this white-knuckle battle of the soul. You either have the inner fire, or you're just fundamentally weak.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that narrative completely falls apart when you look at the actual science, doesn't it?
It completely crumbles. The science tells us a totally different story. The data shows that struggling with a bad habit is rarely a sign of moral weakness. It is almost always just a symptom of really bad environmental design.
Which honestly feels like a massive weight off my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to push back a little here because, you look around and there clearly are people who just seem to have this unnatural amount of discipline.
Sure, they definitely look like they do.
Like the person who never misses a 5 a.m. run or who easily passes on dessert while the rest of us cave. It really looks like they just have some secret reservoir of willpower that I don't have.
It looks that way from the outside, yeah. But here is the most crucial paradigm shift we need to make right out of the gate. Research shows that highly disciplined people are not fundamentally different from anyone else.
Wait, really? They aren't wired differently?
Not at all. They don't have some biological mutation that gives them infinite self-control. What they do have is a totally different strategy for structuring their lives.
Okay, what does that mean?
It means the people who appear to have the most self-control are typically just the ones who need to use it the least.
Okay, that's a bit counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Are you saying they're disciplined because they literally don't use discipline?
In a sense, yeah. They act as architects of their environment. So instead of putting themselves in a situation where they have to summon this heroic willpower to resist temptation.
They just avoid the temptation entirely.
Exactly. They spend vastly less time in tempting situations to begin with. They don't walk down the candy aisle. They don't keep TikTok on their phone's home screen.
So they aren't fighting their desires, they're just preemptively removing the triggers.
Right. Because once a habit is encoded into your brain, it's pretty much there forever, waiting to be activated.
Meaning you can break a habit, but you can't erase it.
Precisely. You can stop doing the behavior, but the mental pathways, those physical grooves in the brain, they're almost impossible to completely erase.
So if I'm trying to white-knuckle my way through a diet by just resisting junk food all day, that's a doomed strategy.
It's terrible. It's like trying to hold your breath underwater. You can do it for a little while, and you might feel really proud of yourself for a minute.
But eventually, your biology is going to hijack your brain and force you to gasp for air.
Exactly. Willpower fatigues. It's strictly a short-term strategy. To actually change long-term, you have to stop trying to control your internal desires and start designing your external reality.
Okay, so if these disciplined people aren't using willpower, they must be relying on automatic behaviors, right? They've just built better pathways. Which brings up the question, how does the brain actually build this automation?
Well, To figure that out, we have to look at how the brain manages its energy. Because the conscious mind is a massive bottleneck. It can only focus on one complex problem at a time.
It's like a computer processor maxing out its RAM. Too many tabs open, and the whole system freezes.
I love that analogy. And conscious thought is incredibly energy intensive. From an evolutionary standpoint, your brain wants to conserve energy at all costs so it's ready for sudden threats.
Like a predator jumping out of the bushes.
Right. So the brain is constantly trying to delegate any repetitive task down to the non-conscious mind to free up that RAM.
It takes the daily stuff and shoves it into the basement so the main floor is clear for emergencies.
Exactly. And it does this through a very specific feedback loop. Try, fail, learn, try differently.
Like a baby learning to walk. You stumble, adjust, and eventually it's just a background process.
Yes, and the classic example of how researchers mapped this out is Edward Thorndike's puzzle box experiments from the late 1800s.
Oh, but the cat's right.
Yeah. He would put a hungry cat inside this custom-built puzzle box, and the only way out was to perform a specific action like pressing a lever. And he'd put a bowl of food right outside the box in plain sight.
So the cat is highly motivated but totally confused.
Totally. At first, the cat's behavior is completely chaotic. It scratches the bars, sniffs the corners, paws at the ceiling. It tries everything.
And eventually it just accidentally steps on the lever.
Pure accident. The door springs open and it gets the food. But Thorndike didn't stop there. He put the same cat back in the box again and again.
And what happened? Did the cat remember instantly?
Not instantly, but you could physically see the learning process. The cat spent less and less time doing the useless stuff, the scratching and sniffing, and hovered around the lever more. With every repetition, it got faster at escaping.
The cat's brain is basically cataloging what works. Scratching did nothing, but that weird wooden pedal got me dinner. Let's do that.
Exactly. It creates a cognitive script. If I'm in this box, then I press this lever. We do the exact same thing. If I feel stressed, then I scroll social media. If I'm bored, I eat junk food.
The brain is just predicting what will solve its immediate problem.
Right, and the chemical currency that drives this whole engine is dopamine.
Dopamine. We hear this everywhere now. It's usually talked about as the pleasure chemical. People talk about getting a dopamine hit from a TikTok video.
Which is actually a pretty flawed or at least incomplete understanding of it. Dopamine is not simply about pleasure. It's fundamentally about desire and motivation.
Okay, so how do we know the difference?
That brings us back to the rat experiment we teased at the intro. Olds and Milner in 1954. They implanted electrodes in the rats' brains and blocked the dopamine receptors.
And the assumption was they would just stop enjoying things.
Right. If dopamine is pleasure, removing it should just make them indifferent. But instead, they lost all motivation to do literally anything. They wouldn't eat, they wouldn't mate.
They'd just sit there and die of thirst with water right next to them.
Exactly. But here is the crazy part. Later studies found that if you took those same dopamine-depleted rats and dropped sugary water directly onto their tongues,
Bypassing the need for them to actually get up and get it.
right, their facial expressions would still light up. They still showed all the signs of experiencing pleasure. They liked the sugar water.
Wait, so the ability to feel pleasure was totally fine.
Completely intact. But without dopamine, they didn't want it enough to take action. They wouldn't walk 2 inches to get it. Liking something and wanting something are two different neurological processes.
And habits are entirely driven by the wanting.
Exactly. Now, what happens if you crank the dopamine dial the other way, up to the absolute maximum?
Pure chaos, I'm assuming.
Absolute chaos. Researchers gave mice a way to trigger their own dopamine by poking their nose into a hole. The mice went into a frenzy. They would poke their noses into the box 800 times an hour.
800 times an hour. That's insane. It sounds like someone sitting at a slot machine in Vegas.
The parallel is very real. But there's a crucial nuance here about when the dopamine actually spikes, and most people get this backwards.
We usually think it spikes when we get the reward, right? Like, I eat the chocolate, I get the dopamine.
Right. But neurologically, the biggest spike happens in anticipation of the reward, before you even get the thing.
So wait, just thinking about it triggers the spike.
It's the cue. You walk past a bakery, you smell the bread. That's the cue. Your brain anticipates the taste and the warmth, and that anticipation triggers the massive flood of dopamine.
And that flood is what actually makes you change your walking route, go inside, and pull out your wallet.
Yes.
Yeah.
It explains why browsing Netflix for a movie often feels more engaging than actually watching the movie. The anticipation is the drug.
That makes so much sense. It's like adding stuff to an online shopping cart but never checking out. You get the thrill just from the potential of it.
Exactly. And every single time the cycle fires, it leaves a physical mark on your brain. It literally alters your biological hardware.
This connects to something from neuroscience Hebb's law, right? Neurons that fire together wire together.
Yes, from 1949. Long-term potentiation. When you do a new behavior, specific neurons fire in a sequence. Do it once, nothing really changes, but repeat that exact sequence over and over.
The physical connections actually get stronger.
They do. The brain starts to myelinate those nerve fibers. It wraps them in a fatty layer that makes the electrical signals travel faster.
It's like paving a dirt path in the woods. The first time you walk it, you're bushwhacking. It's exhausting. But if you walk it every day for a year, you wear down the grass.
Then you lay down gravel, and eventually you pave it with asphalt. It becomes a superhighway.
And the brain wants these superhighways because driving on asphalt takes way less energy than bushwhacking.
Yeah.
Do we have actual physical proof of this in humans?
Oh, absolutely. Astonishing evidence. Brain scans of professional string instrument players like violinists show they have significantly larger cerebellums than non-musicians.
Really? Just from practicing?
Just from the thousands of hours of specific repetitive finger movements, the brain expanded the hardware dedicated to that task.
That is wild. It's like a bodybuilder getting a bigger bicep, but inside the skull.
Yeah. And mathematicians have more gray matter in the inferior parietal lobule, which handles computation. And the longer they've been in the field, the larger it is.
Oh, and I remember reading about a study with taxi drivers in London.
Yes, the knowledge. To drive a black cab in London, you have to memorize roughly 25,000 streets and thousands of landmarks.
Which takes years.
Years of intense studying. And MRI scans showed their hippocampi, which is the region for spatial memory, were significantly larger than the general public's.
Their brains literally grew to store the map of the city.
They did. But the most fascinating part is that when they scanned retired taxi drivers, their hippocampi had actually shrunk back down to normal size.
Wait, really? Because they weren't using the superhighway anymore.
Exactly. The brain pruned the connections to save energy, the forest reclaimed the road.
So the brain is just constantly adapting. Which brings up a massive practical question for anyone listening. People always ask about the timeline of habits. It takes 21 days or it takes 60 days.
Right, the magic number.
Yeah. But if every repetition is laying down asphalt, does the calendar actually matter at all?
That is the perfect question, and the answer completely destroys that conventional wisdom. The calendar doesn't matter. The secret to habit formation isn't time, it's frequency.
Frequency. So it's literally just about the reps.
Precisely. If person A does 50 push-ups every day for 10 days, and person B does 50 push-ups once a week for 10 weeks, person A builds the habit infinitely faster.
Even though person B stretched it over months.
Right. The brain needs a high volume of repetitions to trigger that physical change. The whole 21 days thing is just a complete myth.
Where did that even come from?
It got taken out of context from a plastic surgeon in the 60s who noticed it took his patients about 21 days to get used to their new faces.
Oh, wow. That had nothing to do with building a new behavior.
Nothing at all. Researchers actually track this with something called the habit line. You map automaticity on the vertical axis and repetitions on the horizontal.
So in the beginning, repetitions are low, and the behavior requires a ton of conscious effort.
Massive cognitive load. But with every rep, the pathway gets more myelinated, the effort goes down, and eventually you cross that habit line and it shifts to being mostly automatic.
Okay, this all makes logical sense, but this brings up a huge real-world problem. If repetition is the engine, what turns the key in the ignition?
Ah, the trigger.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I have a guitar sitting in its case in my closet. I know the mechanics. If I play it every day, my cerebellum might grow. But day after day, it just sits there. I never initiate the behavior.
And that is exactly where most people stumble. They have the desire, but they fail to design the trigger. This brings us to the first law of behavior change from the text. Make it obvious.
Make it obvious. Which sounds almost too simple. But if conscious RAM is overloaded, we aren't going to go hunting for hidden triggers.
Exactly. If the cue is hidden, your brain won't allocate energy to find it. Carl Jung had this staggering quote: "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate."
Wow. We just think, oh, it's my fate to be disorganized. But really, we just have an environment that cues disorganization.
Yes. Over time, these cues become totally invisible. You see cookies on the counter, you eat one without consciously thinking, I am choosing to eat this cookie.
We just ping pong off the most obvious cues in the room.
Right. The environment is doing the heavy lifting. Kurt Lewin, a psychologist in 1936, wrote a famous equation. Behavior is a function of the person and their environment. B equals F of PE.
So acknowledges that genetics and history matter, but the space you're in matters just as much.
And sometimes the environment matters significantly more. In 1952, Hawkenstern coined impulse buying suggestion. He realized a massive percentage of purchases happen just because of how products are presented.
Oh, this is the candy bar in the checkout aisle.
Yeah.
I mean, I have never walked into a store with Tic Tacs on my grocery list.
Never.
But I stand there for 5 minutes, they're at eye level, and suddenly I desperately need mints.
The environment manufactured that urge. The store is acting as an invisible hand. But the brilliant part is, we can use that invisible hand for our own goals.
We can weaponize the candy aisle strategy in our own houses.
Yes. And there's a phenomenal real-world example of this from the Netherlands during the 1970s energy crisis.
Oh, I love this study. This perfectly illustrates, make it obvious. Let's dive into this.
So the government wanted people to use less electricity. Researchers looked at this one suburb near Amsterdam where all the houses were virtually identical. Same size, same electricity prices.
So logically, everyone should be using about the same amount of power.
Right. But they weren't. Sub-homeowners were consistently using 30% less electricity than their neighbors.
30% is a huge difference. Did they have better insulation or something?
No, the houses were identical.
No.
And they weren't just more morally conscious environmentalists either. When they dug into it, they found one incredibly mundane architectural difference.
Okay, what was it?
In the houses that used a lot of power, the electrical meters, the dials showing usage, were installed down in the dark basement or hidden in a utility closet.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. But in the houses that used 30% less, the builders had inexplicably put the meters right in the main upstairs hallway.
Oh, wow. So every time they walked to the kitchen, they saw the dial spinning, they saw the energy burning in real time.
The cue was obvious and impossible to ignore. Nobody gave them a lecture. The visual friction of seeing that meter spin just automatically changed their habits. They started turning off lights.
That's wild. It completely explains my guitar problem. Keeping it in a black case, in a dark closet, behind my coats, is literally putting the meter in the basement.
You're setting yourself up for failure before you even start. You're forcing your conscious mind to remember the guitar and do the physical work to dig it out.
So what should I do?
The guitar needs to be on a stand, directly in the middle of your living room, right where you sit to watch TV. Intercept your normal line of sight. If you want to take vitamins, don't put them in the pantry. Put them next to the bathroom sink.
So you actually have to pick them up just to brush your teeth. It really requires a massive shift in how we view our homes. We usually just think of rooms as storage containers for our stuff.
But we need to view them as a series of behavioral relationships. A couch isn't just a piece of furniture. To one person, it's strongly associated with reading. They see the couch, their brain anticipates a book.
But to me, that exact same couch means this is where I eat chips and doom scroll on Twitter for 3 hours.
Right. The object is neutral. The history of repetitions gives it its gravitational pull.
Which makes modern living super tricky. Because, you know, a lot of people live in tiny studio apartments.
Oh, the multi-purpose room problem. It's a profound challenge.
Right. If my bedroom is also my office, my gym, and my dining room, the cues are completely bleeding into each other.
Yeah.
If I'm working at my desk, but my bed is 3 feet away screaming, take a nap, how do you manage that?
You have to get ruthless about creating microenvironments. You divide the limited space into highly specific, rigid activity zones.
Like drawing invisible lines in the room.
Exactly. One specific chair in the corner is strictly for reading. A specific corner of the desk is only for deep work. And the bed is exclusively for sleeping.
So no answering emails in bed. Ever.
Never. The moment you mix contexts, you mix habits. If you answer emails in bed, you're teaching your brain that the bed is a place of stress and alertness.
And then when you try to sleep, your brain is totally confused. The overarching rule is one space, one use.
Precisely. And if you have two habits competing for the same space, like watching TV and studying on the same sofa, the easier habit is almost always going to win.
Because the brain defaults to the path of least resistance.
Yes. Which is why, if you want to build a tough new habit, it's often way easier to just leave your house entirely. Go to a new coffee shop.
Right, because it's a blank slate. You leave your behavioral baggage at the door.
Exactly. But this brings us to the next massive hurdle. Making a cue obvious isn't always enough, right?
Right, I mean, my running shoes can be sitting right by the front door, totally obvious, but I still have to lace them up and go outside in the cold.
Yeah.
Seeing the trigger doesn't negate the physical effort.
And that is the perfect transition to the third law of behavior change. Make it easy. And to master this, we have to confront a really uncomfortable truth about human nature.
Which is what?
That our default biological operating system is to be fundamentally lazy.
Lazy. But wait, society ruthlessly shames laziness. We treat it like a moral failing.
Society shames it, but evolutionary biology praises it. Laziness is a brilliant survival mechanism. For 99% of human history, calories were scarce.
And the brain is a massive energy hog, right?
Huge. It's 2% of our body weight, but uses 20% of our energy. So we are hardwired by the law of least effort to conserve energy whenever possible.
Meaning if I have two options, I am biologically programmed to take the easier path.
Inevitably. We don't just prefer the easy way, our biology demands it.
I love this reframing. Laziness isn't a flaw, it's a feature. So instead of fighting it with willpower, we should weaponize it. Make the good habit the laziest possible option.
That's the whole secret. Trying to force motivation when a task is hard is like trying to force water through a sharply bent hose. You can do it if you pump hard enough, but pressure builds up, you get fatigued, and you spring a leak.
So reducing friction is just unbending the hose.
Exactly. Let the water flow naturally. And to understand the sheer scale of this law of least effort, the author points to Jared Diamond's book, Guns, Germs, and Steel.
Oh, okay. So we're going from trying to go to the gym to the dawn of global human civilization.
Yeah. Diamond wanted to know why agriculture spread so much faster across Eurasia than it did in the Americas.
Okay, what did he find?
He looked at the shape of the continents. Eurasia stretches horizontally, east to west. The Americas stretch vertically, north to south.
How does that affect farming?
Friction. When agriculture started in the Middle East, it spread east to west incredibly fast because it stayed in roughly the same latitude.
Oh, I see. A wheat seed doesn't care what country it's in, it just cares about sunlight and climate.
Exactly. The climate, the seasons, they start consistent. A farmer could take a crop thousands of miles east or west, and the environment required very little effort to adapt. The hose was unbent.
But in the Americas, if you move north to south,
It's a nightmare of friction. Start in Mexico and move south, you quickly hit tropical rainforests, the crops die. Move further, you hit the Andes Mountains.
so they had to invent entirely new farming techniques every few hundred miles. The friction was astronomical.
Right, so it spread much slower. Humanity historically expands along the path of least resistance.
That really puts my struggle to do 20 minutes of yoga into perspective. I'm fighting the same forces that determined the fate of empires.
Exactly. And the key insight here is that we don't actually want the habit itself. You don't desire the physical pain of lifting weights. You want the result: health, longevity.
The habit is just a necessary obstacle. So the strategy is to systematically lower the hurdle.
And we see this in modern business too. Look at American versus Japanese TV manufacturers in the 1970s.
Oh, the lean production model.
Right, American factories relied on willpower. If things were slow, they yelled at workers to hustle harder.
White knuckling on the assembly line.
But the Japanese companies practiced Kaizen, continuous improvement. They didn't ask workers to try harder, they just relentlessly removed wasted movement.
Addition by subtraction.
Exactly. They put tools exactly where the worker's hand naturally fell, and the result: American TVs needed 5 times more repairs, and assembly took 3 times longer.
Wow. They just designed an environment where the right action was the laziest action? So how do we do that in our own lives?
You ruthlessly audit your routines. Take the gym. If you sign up for a gym that's 10 blocks out of your way, you've introduced massive friction.
On a tired day, you'll never go.
But if the gym is literally on your direct route home from the office, the friction is near zero. Stopping requires almost no extra energy.
What about preparing the environment for the future? Like setting the stage?
Oh, the author has a brilliant anecdote about his wife for this. She's known for always sending thoughtful greeting cards for birthdays and occasions.
Which is normally a high-friction habit. You have to remember, drive to the store, pick a card, buy a stamp.
Right, and usually by step 3, you just give up and send a text. But she bypassed all of that. She buys cards in bulk and keeps them in a pre-sorted box at home.
Oh, that's so smart. She automated the thoughtfulness.
She did the hard work once to make the right action incredibly easy for her future self. The activation energy is 0.
It's like chopping vegetables on Sunday so they're the easiest thing to grab on Wednesday.
Exactly. Unbend the hose.
Okay, let's follow this logic all the way down. If the goal is absolute least effort, then the ultimate habit design would be removing the need for human effort entirely.
Which brings us to automating the future and the power of technology.
Right, because tech is the ultimate friction remover. But there's a terrifying paradox here. It removes friction for good habits, but it completely vaporizes friction for our worst impulses.
It's true. Think about binge-watching TV 20 years ago. When an episode ended, you had to physically stand up, inject the VHS, put the new one in.
You had a forced pause to ask yourself, should I just go to bed?
But Netflix introduced autoplay. The next episode starts in 5 seconds. They engineered the environment to eliminate friction.
It literally takes more effort to find the remote and turn it off than it does to just sit there. The default state is consumption.
But we can flip this. We can use technology as a commitment device.
A commitment device, what does that look like?
It's a choice you make in the present that locks in better behavior for the future. You build a wall to keep your future self from escaping.
Like setting up an automatic transfer to your savings account on payday. You don't have to choose to save, the system just does it.
Exactly. Or buying a really high-quality mattress once, and it improves your sleep for a decade.
My favorite example from the notes was near aisle strategy. It's extreme, but brilliant.
Throw the router timer. Yes. He knew he was staying up too late, mindlessly browsing the internet, and willpower wasn't working.
So what did he do?
He bought a cheap electrical outlet timer, the kind you use for Christmas lights. He plugged his internet router into it and programmed it to cut power at exactly 10 p.m. every night.
Just brutal. Clock strikes 10, the internet dies. No, one more email.
He removed his own agency. He made the bad habit physically impossible. He forced his future self to behave.
Which perfectly sets up the final piece of the puzzle. We've made the cue obvious, made it easy, automated it, but there's a fourth law. Make it satisfying. Or, for breaking bad habits, make it unsatisfying.
This is critical. Why do we repeat bad habits when we know they're terrible for us?
Because they solve a short-term problem. The pizza feels great right now. The weight gain is delayed by months.
Exactly. The human brain prioritizes immediate rewards over delayed consequences. So to break a habit, we have to reverse that timeline. We have to artificially manufacture immediate pain.
And one of the best ways is through a habit contract.
Yes. Take the creator Thomas Frank. He wanted to wake up at 5:55 a.m., but he knew he'd just hit snooze. The delayed consequence of being a little less productive wasn't painful enough to get him out of a warm bed.
So he set up this automated Twitter system.
He did. Every morning at 6:10 a.m., a tweet was scheduled to automatically publish saying, "I'm not up because I'm lazy. Reply to this and I'll send you $5 via PayPal."
That is amazing. Capped at 5 people, so if he hits snooze, he instantly loses $25 to random strangers.
The only way to stop it is to wake up and manually cancel the tweet before 6 to now.
Yeah.
He tied an immediate financial penalty to his laziness.
But it's not just the money, it's the public humiliation.
That's the real genius. We care deeply about what our tribe thinks of us. Broadcasting your failure is excruciating. It's just a localized version of the social contracts that govern society.
Like seatbelt laws. If you don't wear one, the car beeps at you constantly, or you get an immediate ticket. The pain is immediate.
Exactly. So putting all this together, let me ask you a philosophical question that a listener might be thinking right now.
Okay, lay it on me.
If we follow this to the extreme, we put our routers on kill switches, we tweet away our money, we treat our homes like rigid activity zones, do we risk treating ourselves like robots? Where is the joy if you're just trapped in a self-imposed prison?
It's a totally fair concern.
Yeah.
Are we just stripping the humanity out of our lives?
I'd argue the exact opposite. These systems aren't a prison, they're scaffolding. They protect your finite cognitive energy. Do you really want to burn your precious willpower arguing with your alarm clock every morning?
Definitely not. I want to save that energy for my actual work or my family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Automating the mundane habits frees up massive amounts of cognitive load so you can focus on higher level growth. The scaffolding allows you to build the cathedral.
And the joy doesn't disappear, it just shifts. The joy comes from the progress.
Right. Tracking the habit, the Seinfeld strategy of don't break the chain on a calendar, becomes its own deeply satisfying reward.
You literally see the proof of your own progress. So to bring this all home, Drop the guilt trip.
Drop the moral judgment. It's useless.
Your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's just trying to save energy. You just need to become the architect of your environment. Make good habits obvious and easy. Hide the cues for bad ones and make them painfully difficult.
But there is one final hidden danger we have to mention before we go.
The trapdoor at the end.
Yes, the Goldilocks rule. We assume the biggest threat to habit success is failure, that it'll be too hard. But the science shows the actual biggest threat is boredom.
Boredom, because the habit gets too automated.
Exactly. Once the hose is totally unbent and the habit is effortless, the novelty fades, the dopamine gulls. And when we get bored, we are highly vulnerable to self-sabotage.
We'll literally blow up our perfectly designed routine just to feel some drama.
We will. So the ultimate challenge isn't just designing the system, it's learning how to fall in love with the boredom.
Wow. Can you keep doing the exact same mundane routine every single day, long after the motivation is gone?
That is what separates the successful from everyone else.
So to our listener, that's the question we leave you with. When the dramatic music fades out and it's just a quiet Tuesday morning, will you fall in love with the boredom?
Forget the superhero cape. It's time to grab your drafting tools.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.